Adrian Kelly, who is the president, who's the current president of the REIA, really wanted to join us today. Only, as you can imagine, he's being pulled in a number of different directions. He wrote an open letter to the industry last night, which we published on our website today. I strongly recommend that you go and check that out because it actually covers a whole range of issues from his point of view. So, but while we've got these guys here, what I want to do is just do a quick whip around the states and see what the challenges are in each state. So starting with you, Leanne, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing right now and hearing from agents in New South Wales?
Obviously, the rental relief for both residential and commercial tenants is massive, and of course the landlords, and trying to separate the institutional landlords from the mum and dad investor landlords, because there's plenty of mums and dads out there that have got commercial or retail property, and at the moment they seem to all be sort of lumped in the one, which is not really fair on anybody. There is a lot of conflicting and changing information, and so as soon as we get an announcement, there's more questions than answers. So trying to get that information out of Fair Trading, just to get the clarity. And don't get me wrong, Fair Trading have been under the pump like all of us, and they have been really forthcoming in their communication, but just trying to keep on top of everything is a real challenge for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot easier when we were reporting on new offices opening and closing, for sure. This moves a whole heap faster. So Damian, what about you? What are you seeing in WA?
I think, Sam, the issues for this market are national, and we're experiencing the same issues, particularly around tenancies. And I guess as an institute, we're doing our best to get information out, not just to our members, but also to the wider public, because you see the headlines and it says no evictions for 6 months, and everyone thinks, well, they can't evict anyone. Well, that's not true. You can, if you're, unless you're significantly affected, you can still be evicted. So it's just the noise. There's a lot of queries, a lot of what ifs, and unfortunately, while we're doing our best, well, there's some of the what ifs we can't answer. There's no legislation yet, and certainly in WA about this no eviction policy, and we're still waiting on the rent relief. So it's just trying to navigate in waters that aren't very clear, and giving our members and the public the best information we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leah, what about yourself?
Pretty much the same as Leanne and Damian. There's a lot of noise, and I think that's making it really challenging for everyone. We have a Prime Minister announcement, and then everyone just melts down, and they're not quite sure what the processes are going to be, because the states actually don't know what the processes are going to be. Again, that language around non-evictions for 6 months is incorrect in the state of Victoria. So, for those circumstances, there are still VCAT is still issuing possession orders. We had one as late as yesterday. And also, I think for property managers, they're working in the space of grey, and property managers traditionally only like to work in black and white. So for them to be in a grey area, it's really challenging for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I'm finding that there is a lot of inquiries from property managers at the moment who are being inundated with inquiries, for example, for rent relief. And, so maybe you guys can help clear this up. There was a headline this morning about real estate agents being criticised for suggesting tenants in financial distress draw on their superannuation early to make rental payments. I mean, ScoMo did say the other day that he wants to keep the whole cash flow in the rent process going. So, Damian, what are your thoughts on that? What should property managers be doing when someone calls and says, I'm in distress?
Sam, I think the first thing is because there's a lot of people, think they can get a rent-free period regardless. We're asking in Western Australia that you get a letter from your employer showing that firstly that you have been laid off or hours significantly cut. And look, as an industry, I think we've got to be really cautious here. Already some landlords are starting to get in commercial space, are getting some bad PR. Look, we've obviously we've got to represent our clients who are the landlords and do the best. But I think certainly sending tenants the packages available. It's the job seeker package. Now we've got a job keeper, so some of them may get their job back that they may not even be aware of. And then obviously superannuation things. I think sending that out, but telling them to take their super money out of super is really could damage our industry. So I'd just be cautious on that. I think you need to tell the tenant all the options and try and work with them. And hopefully we're going to get this rent relief package in the next few days, because that's the big uncertainty. I think there is something coming, but we just don't know how much and when it's coming. That's the challenge.
Yeah. Leanne, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. We're certainly asking for clarification as to the issues that the tenant's having, and so that we can go to our landlords. And a lot of landlords have been terrific about it. They really are. Where they're in a position to assist, they certainly are. But not all landlords are in the position to help. You know, we've got a lot of landlords that are self-funded retirees, for example, and they just, you know, that's their money to live on as well. So we do need to have a change in language from the government and stop talking about 6 months no rent, because that is not what's going to happen. I might just say though, NCAT in New South Wales is not doing evictions for delayed rent, but for being behind in your rent. They are doing they are working on other things, but for that sector, we cannot, even though the legislation hasn't changed in New South Wales yet. NCAT are sort of making their own decision around that, unfortunately.
So if I could just summarise that, so they're not doing cases for non-payment of rent. They're still doing cases for all sorts of other.
Yeah, that's right. If there's risk to public health, or if somebody is causing significant damage to a property, those sorts of things, and it has to be done either via email or over the phone. There's no face-to-face anymore, but for non-payment of rent, NCAT are not terminating.
Yeah, okay. Leah, is there anything else you'd like to add from a Victorian perspective?
No, I think property managers need to tread gently in this space. That's really important. But as Damian said, it's really important that we continue to keep that dialogue open with you tenants that are in these situations, to say, you know, these are all of your options, and there are substantial options available for people. You know, my team this morning told me they received 2 calls yesterday where people were saying, well, I don't want to make the inquiries, can you, property manager? And so it's a really interesting space. They need to be, you know, directing everyone to the different websites, whether it be MyGov or Centrelink. But and if it means for those people that potentially their best option is to look at their taking funds from their super, and that might be applicable for both landlords and tenants, I think it's not bad advice. It's really just giving everyone the information so that they can go away and work out what solution best suits their position at this very time.
It sounds like we need to create some sort of a flow chart, or a you know, like one of those little Facebook quizzes or something like that sort of says, you know, like, have you lost your job? Yes, no, and, you know, like plug in all the things so that, you know, they can come to their own conclusion on what might be the best road to take.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I know we've all got different versions of information that we're sending out to all of our members with all of the different links. But, you know, sometimes just wading through all of that information, and then when you do read it, it's like, okay, I'm not a lawyer, so what does that actually mean for me? It can be a little bit complicated to understand.
Yeah. How does landlord insurance fit into this whole picture on rent relief, like to your knowledge? Because, you know, some people came out earlier in the week and said, well, a lot of landlords should be protected under their landlord insurance policy. And then I think, you know, there was a shift. I mean, from the time that we talked to Hannah Gill last week to now, like there's been a big shutdown, like you can't go and get landlord insurance now, which is completely understandable. But, you know, like, what are your thoughts on that, starting with Leanne?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. There has been a shutdown for the majority of insurers, which is understandable. And the agents have to follow process for a landlord to be able to claim, and that process includes issuing termination. So that is something that I am awaiting confirmation and advice from Fair Trading, and I hope I will get that today. Yeah.
What, Damian?
Yeah, it is still a bit unclear, and unfortunately, look, the landlord insurers haven't been particularly helpful, in my opinion. They've really stuck to their guns. Look, we run a eviction process through the Magistrates Court. What I'm hoping is that the process will be that the magistrates, or over in East Coast, the VCAT, or or NCAT, you still issue the termination notices, but when you get to that authority, they will obviously say, well, we can't. So I hope legislation doesn't stop the issue of notices, because that's what we need to do for our landlord's insurance. I'm hoping it would be if and when it got to VCAT or the magistrates court. And obviously, given the backlog of things, it'd be months and months anyway. And that's what I'm hoping, so that people can still claim on their landlord's insurance. That's the trouble with legislation, particularly legislation on the fly, is the devil's always in the detail. So, you can't evict someone for non-payment of rent, then it's really hard to claim on the other side if that eviction notice is not presented.
Leah, Sam, if I can just add also Aon. So Aon have confirmed, the REIV has got some correspondence that they're still taking policies up until Friday. So if there are any property managers online listening and they know that their owners don't have insurance, they need to get onto it now, because they'll probably be the last one to shut. And we have received some verbal advice from one of the larger landlord insurance policies, is that the procedures need to be taken, it's complied with as normal, irrespective of what's going on. So as Leanne and Damian said, the termination notices need to be, served to show that the owner is mitigating their loss. One of the suggestions we've raised directly with the head of VCAT is the potential of in-chamber payment plans being registered by VCAT. So instead of it needing to wait through and go through an order, if there's actually been an agreed payment plan put in place for X period of time, the presiding member who's sitting in chambers for that particular day for VCAT could actually, rubber stamp that order, and therefore it minimises the delays. It also will, free up VCAT a little bit, but that's one of the other positives, that we got a really favourable response from Ian Proctor, who's the head of VCAT.
Yeah, actually there was another question that came in specifically for Victoria, Leah, in that with the new Residential Tenancies Act in Victoria, is that if your landlord is interstate, then VCAT has no jurisdiction there. And there's a few concerned property managers out there that, that if they've got interstate landlords, that they've got no recourse at all. Is that still the case? Yeah. And are you trying to work on that one? Because that seems a little crazy to me.
It's the same for NCAT.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been the same. We've known about it, and I'm sure Leanne's the same. We've all known about it for probably 12 months, 18 months, but it just hadn't been enforced. So, government is well aware, because it shouldn't matter where the landlord resides. It should only matter where the property resides. So it is something that we need to continually look at. Again, for property managers, the changes in this particular area really needs to be flagged with the individual landlord insurance policy. I know, once that came through, the different policies we work with within my own business, we flagged it off to each of them, so they'll make their required amendments. But across the industry, they all need to be considering these different changes.
And we've been trying to work with the Attorney General to get this changed from an NCAT perspective, but we're just not making any progress.
Yeah.
In WA, we're fortunate. I say fortunate. The Magistrates Courts is not very productive or helpful. We've been looking to go to a SAT system, but because of this issue now across border, we're just still with the Magistrates Court. So won't be an issue in WA for the moment.
Yeah, actually, there's been a couple of comments. I'm sure you guys can see the chat box up there. One from Linda saying we need the insurance industry to take on new policies in regards to newly settled properties, because, even as we speak right now, properties are being settled right around the country, and it's probably not fair that these people don't get access to landlord insurance. I mean, just another one of the...
Yeah, it's a really good point, right? Yeah.
What else have we got? Okay.
Sam, just on that, I've got a couple of clients that are due to settle in the next probably 30 days, and we've just said, look, just go straight to the insurance company now to see if you can get a cover note, pay it, even though you haven't taken over the possession or full ownership of the property, and ask the question. The worst thing people can say is they can say no, but at least ask the question.
Yeah. That's classic in this industry, isn't it? If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. So ask the question, because there's never been A more important time, yeah. Okay, can we talk about rent relief? Like, because we've been sort of thinking this is coming for a while, but I just want to ask you guys what you hope will happen and what you hope does not happen. So I might start with Damian.
Well, Sam, I'm hoping for certainly in the residential space, start there. I'm hoping for the governments, which will be administered through the state governments, definitely, but might be some federal funding in it, that they will come to the party again where a tenant can demonstrate that they can't pay the rent because they've lost their job. That the state government will pay that money direct to the agent, and the agent will then pass it on to the landlord. Now, wishful thinking is it'd be 100%. I think that's not going to be realistic. I think if there is any rent relief, they will be asking landlords to bear some of it. But certainly I'd want to see it at least 75% would be ideal. But that's what I certainly hope for. And the money would go through the state government in WA. Has all the bonds, they keep all the bonds, and so they know where the agencies are. It'd be much easier for them to administer it and get it straight back through the agencies, and we can pass it on to our landlords.
Exactly, because that's the way that the money flow continues, right? So the tenants get their rent paid, the agents can get their fees, and the landlords get their money, and everyone can continue on. That's what
our discussions with the department. WA is with New South Wales is heading this up. Our discussions with the department is that any rent relief would definitely be going back through the agency channels. So fingers crossed. But obviously, we need to know the quantum of that rent relief as well, and that's still obviously up in the air.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone.
And I think we're all on that same page. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's main concern, is because as soon as you reduce rents, that reduces your management fee. If rents get reduced to nothing, obviously, then you might end up managing something for nothing. Like, which is a big resource drain on a lot of small businesses, I guess. Yeah. So we're all sort of hoping, I guess, and that's something that Adrian Kelly did say in his letter last night, is that, the real estate industry is for all groups and that we want to see it all work out. But there are a big bunch of small businesses out there who are real estate agents as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything like, COVID-19 is completely dominating the news right now. Is there anything else that you're kind of working on at the moment that is not COVID-19 based, or is it all about the virus?
It's all about the virus and how we actually work during this period. So I've never done so many Zoom meetings in my entire life. We had some of our agents move auctions online last weekend. So that was an interesting challenge. Some of them did much better job than others, to be frank. But it's just a massive learning experience from a tech perspective for all of us. But it's all virus related. It's nice to see the agents actually being forced to use technology, because it's been something we've been trying to get them involved in for some time, and they've been resisting. So
there's no more of this "that'll never happen" about online auctions, is there?
Certainly not. Certainly not.
Damian, in WA, I was talking to some of my agent friends in WA yesterday, and as usual, what they say to me is, "Oh, look, I don't know what you people over east are grizzling about. All that's changed for us is we've got a bit more hand sanitizer," because they were pretty much doing private inspections anyway. One-on-one sort of thing. Auctions aren't a massive thing unless the property lends itself to that. What changes have you seen on the sales side from agents over in WA?
Yeah, certainly, Sam. Auctions are pretty small here in context to over east. So we have certainly seen the move to private in inspections, which everyone has to do now, but also big uptake in the virtual or 3D tours that the company out of Perth, Asset Reports, run, and I'm sure others do. They picking up a lot of business in that space. I think that's going to be the future. I personally thought home opens would be dead within 5 years. I think this is just going to bring it forward. People want to see things virtually, and and life goes on. Even in the property management space, we do more inspections than over east. We do 4 a year, and our team and many others have moved to virtual inspections, so the tenants in the property and the property manager directs them where to go, and who knows, that could be the way of the future as well. It's a long way to drive to properties and come back, and perhaps that'll be some of the changes that we see long term. So I think the technology, we've all seen it there, we'll know it's there. I think this has really sparked everyone taking it up much more quickly.
Yeah, there's no doubt that we'll do things differently on the other side. Absolutely no doubt at all. One of the things that I'm doing with a group of my business owners outside of my REI job is we have Zoom catch-ups with the entire group a few times, whenever there's a need be, so a few times a week. And it's such a great way to get information out because you can do it really quickly, and I can mute everybody so they can't talk back if I don't want them to. And I love that.
That's got to be a good thing, right?
It's got to be a good thing.
Absolutely, Sam. The other thing that's on our agenda, we've got a couple of things going on. A new strata titles regime is meant to come in May the 1st, and it's quite substantially different in terms of disclosure. So we're asking for the state government to defer that. Just May the 1st is just not real. Everyone's got so many other things to deal with. And also we've got the big Residential Tenancies Act review, and unfortunately our department over here's had a look at Victoria and what they've done in some other states, and talking about guaranteed rights to pets and no evictions without a prescribed reason. So that's a challenge, but we're also asking for that period of time for comment to be put back, because just at the moment, that's meant to be on May the 1st as well. There's just no way that our members can get to it with what's going on at the moment. So, so things that we'll have to deal with hopefully further down the track.
Well, your two co-panellists are well versed in that, because I think the new changes in New South Wales and the Residential Tenancies Act came in the same day that we went into lockdown.
Yeah, 23rd of March. It was a big day.
Yeah, let's just put this rumour to bed too, because I saw one circulating on Facebook that the New South Wales government had deferred those regulations, but they haven't deferred them. They're just saying that they're not going to prosecute for 6 months.
That's exactly right. So they're using the next 6 months as an education time. So if they find something is an issue, they will let the agent know what they should be doing, but they won't be fining them for 6 months.
Yeah,
right.
And Leah, you haven't been immune to this either. So you just had new regulations come in to do with pets and all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
And they haven't been...
I'm loving my life as president, I have to say.
I'm going to get you a T-shirt as well, Leah. It's a hell of a time to be president.
Yeah.
Yes, pets. 1 July is when our new legislation is due to come in with 130 changes. And that is certainly something that we have verbally flagged with government, and will be continuing with a very similar campaign as Damian is doing, to put back the introduction of that legislation for potentially 6 months. It's just not the right time. There's too many pieces of changes within that new legislation. Businesses are not running, as they would normally. People are anxious. We need to, give everyone a bit of a break, and perhaps, allow people to catch their breath a bit in order to make those changes. Because the different to what Leanne was saying, our consumer affairs, I haven't seen the minister or heard from the minister, I think, for the last 2 months. And in fact, we're critiquing a lot of the communication that's coming out of our CAV, which is disappointing and frustrating, but it does allow us to certainly be the voice and the leaders in this space.
Yeah.
Our Residential Tenancies Act also came in on the 23rd of March, so it was a triple whammy for agents in New South Wales.
Yeah. What did you do on that day? Did you just...
Look, I have, as you know, I've been lobbying for the education and training reforms for more than 10 years. That's why I got involved in the Institute in the first place. So I was making jokes that I'm just going to actually tattoo that date on my arm, because I was just so looking forward to it. And then all of this hit, and it's like, yeah, absolutely. I would have liked to hide under my desk, but I couldn't.
I was going to say, you must have thought once or twice, if they can enact legislation due to a pandemic so quickly, why did it take 10 years to get better education?
Oh, isn't that the truth? Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Possibly one other thing that we're certainly focused on over here, and I think it's, to me, it's a tsunami that's still out in the ocean, but it's coming, is the transaction drop-off that we're going to see. And You know, I saw over East the auction clearance rates dropped to 35%. We are starting to see a decline in transactions over here, albeit off already a very low level. We've had a pretty rough 5 years, and so we're lobbying for some stamp duty relief for a short period of time, because there will be people who need to sell, even if they don't, even if the banks doesn't force them into it. So probably won't, but emotionally they just can't deal with it. We need to have a buyer pool, and at the moment I think a lot of people are going to sit on their hands. So we obviously it's state by state decision, but we're certainly lobbying for a significant cut in stamp duty for 6 months to keep those sales transactions going. Obviously it helps us as an industry, but you've got mortgage brokers, you've got settlement agents, lawyers, removalists, a whole bunch of other people who rely on that. And so I think it's something the government probably won't look at in the next few weeks, because I haven't seen the decline yet. But I think hopefully coming into mid-April, once all the other stuff's sorted, they have a good look at that, because that will really hit our industry hard.
Yeah, and that would make such a big difference. Sorry, Sam, that would make such a big difference, Damian. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and you never know that, like we've been calling for that for so long. This could, you know, that might be a silver lining that happens out of it. You know, we can all cross our fingers and hope on that one, I think. Yeah,
maybe the virus is a disruptor that we've all been talking about, hitting the real estate industry for the last few years. Maybe this is it.
I definitely think this virus has been a disruptor. So I'm going to get on to a couple of other questions now, but because it's like sort of 12:36, I just want to call on everyone that if you have any questions for Damian, Leah, or Leanne, to please pop them in the comments box now, so that we can deal with as many as we possibly can. So the one thing that I do want to talk about now is the pressure on some of the industry people, because, you know, we heard from Matt LaHood and Claudio yesterday that you've got some people who are, you know, like really stressed. They're sort of inundated with queries and things like that on the property manager side. On the sales side, you've got people who are sort of wondering what on earth to do. So the comment here, there's no talk outside our industry about PM mental health. How can we possibly, do you think, raise that as an issue at the moment, because they're kind of bearing the brunt of a lot of this rent relief stuff right now from tenants?
Yeah, they really are. And from our perspective, we're just trying to give our property managers as much information as we can, as much communication as we can. There are a lot of the it's certainly not an institute, but a lot of the groups have access to employee assistance programs with counselling, and I would certainly encourage people to reach out to those programs if they need it. But the leaders of the industry across the board need to just step up and just be there and communicate, because the more you communicate, the more you're kind of calming people's anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Damian?
And I was going to say, if I can also just add on that one, for the majority of the business owners of real estate, they are your average mums and dads. You know, they're small businesses. So they're learning. They don't know, there's no rule book or instruction guide for them. So it's really important for, you know, all of our communication that goes out to say, you know, now that your team is perhaps working remotely, let's set up a regular Zoom meeting and let's check in each day. Let's do a FaceTime. Let's do this. Let's do that. Because they don't know. You know, I had some members say to me, you know, if I close my office, how do I run it? Or if I'm allowing my office to remain open, how do I run it? So unless we're giving those suggestions all the time, we're not telling them how to run their business, but unless we're giving them their suggestions all the time and ideas, that's the way that they're going to educate, and that's the way we're going to protect a lot of those, you know, people who are stressed and anxious. And if we remain calm, and I think that's the other part, so important for everyone in a leadership role, whether it be, you know, the four of us or a director of a business or a senior PM, to remain calm and just deal with everything that they can each day, because tomorrow the rules are going to change, no doubt, and next week the rules are going to change. So it's just that, you know, just get through one day at a time. That's all we need to do.
Even I would say one inquiry at a time, and turn your social media off for a while.
Absolutely.
You know, there's something I keep saying to our pro members and all sorts of other people is that, you know, like, it's what will be. Hitting refresh on Facebook is not going to help anyone.
No, I turn my technology off at 8 o'clock at night, and I just don't look at my phone again after that, because I need that time. Otherwise, I'm going to buy into the anxiety as well.
Yeah, Damian.
Yeah, I think it's as Leah said, it's going to be up to obviously us as leaders of the industry, but it's going to come down to each individual agency. And certainly, we have a daily Zoom huddle. We have still having virtual Friday drinks, and I think I've got a great team lead there. And
didn't invite us, Damian.
How rude.
You didn't invite us to the virtual Friday drink.
I'll send you the invite for this Friday virtual drinks. So,
okay, all right, thanks.
But look, I think for a lot of agencies, where I'm a bit concerned is that obviously some agencies there run large property management portfolios. They've got their finger on the pulse and they spend a lot of time on it. But a lot of, in our industry in WA, and I'm sure over East, there's a lot of smaller operators who might have a smaller portfolio and run by a sales principal who doesn't really pay much attention to it. And they might be so busy, they're not, the poor property managers at home getting smashed with queries. And so I just encourage all the principals listening today, the owners of the businesses, even if you're in sales mainly, just to touch base with your PMs. They just want to feel that they're supported. They're going to be the ones who certainly get the first hit of this downturn and virus issues, and just make sure you're with them. They're going to make decisions that maybe you wouldn't have recommended, but it is what it is. Just support them through this journey because they're doing the best they can.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call to action on our leaders, Damian, is that they're in the front line definitely, and they need your support. And I was just going to say, definitely there is support out there. Property managers, you guys are not alone. If you feel alone at all, email me. I'm on the news desk sort of 24/7 right now, so I will respond. As will some of the leaders on this call. So don't ever feel like you're alone. Okay, what other questions have we got? Okay, vacating tenants. I would love to see some legislation that we can enforce a professional cleaner to do a disinfectant surface clean. I guess this is a hot issue at the moment because people want to know that the house that they're moving into has been sanitised. What are your thoughts on this? So I'll start with Damian.
I think to be honest, it's going to be pretty unlikely because you're putting most of the governments look at tenants as generally people without a lot of money. In some cases that's true, in some cases it's not. And I just think they're not going to impose an additional cost to make a tenant get a professional cleaner in. So I think it's going to be something that perhaps in our exit checklist that we all update and say, using alcohol-based sanitizer to wipe down the bench top surfaces at least, but I just don't think the government's going to mandate additional costs on tenants.
Yeah, Leanne?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Leah?
Well, funny enough, in Victoria, the new legislation does say that that there can be some requirements on the tenant to have the property professionally cleaned. But I know from a practical point of view, we had a case yesterday where the tenant had called and said, I'm due to return my keys tomorrow and I've been potentially exposed to coronavirus. What do I do? And again, there's no rule book for us to refer to. So I said, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to have somebody collect those keys using gloves and put them in a post pack. You're going to put the word shoes on the back of that envelope so that when my receptionist receives those keys in the mail, she knows instantly that there's a potential issue with those keys. She opens the envelope with gloves, she sanitises the keys because we have a device now in our office, and then we'll wait 7 days before we complete that final inspection. But that's our process. That's not to say that that's the process every business is doing. So that's where it's really important in these forums that we can share those ideas and, okay, this could work here. This could not, maybe it won't work somewhere else, but it is another idea.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just scanning these questions here. There's a lot of chat going on in the chat box. Okay, so someone's suggesting that an industry standard letter for landlords and tenants would be great and a standard industry hardship form would be great. So I guess we can all take that away as an action to...
We've actually got one at New South Wales. I'm hoping that we'll have that finished today, but it might be tomorrow with, one or two things we've got going on.
Okay, yeah.
Same with this.
Not that busy. Okay, so I just want to start wrapping this up now with so you guys have been very generous with your time this morning. So I just want to know from all three of you, because as I said in the very beginning of this, we are all in this together. what can the agent community do to help you guys in your roles lobbying to government in this very, very important time? What can they do? I'll start with Leanne.
It's around communication, and it's also around being logical and understanding that there are more questions than answers. And so if we can't give you every last detail that you want, understand that we're doing our best, and we all just have to, as you say, we're all in it together.
Yeah. Damian?
Well, I think it's also staying on the same page in the messaging, because lots of people sort of send through weird and wonderful ideas, but if the government keep hearing 27 different messages, they're likely to ignore all of them. So just for all the members out there, stick with what your institute is. We're not going to get everything we want, and we're not going to be able to solve all the problems. But at least if we can get some rent relief packages, maybe some stamp duty, and potentially a few other small things, let's focus on those and listen to what your REI says and stick with that message. And hopefully that will help us be on the same page, get some government attention.
Leah?
Yeah, the same as what Leanne and Damian had said. I think also have a look at the different REI chats that are happening. There's a lot of really, really valuable information coming through those. I had to highlight something today on a chat, because it's come out in our media in Victoria about an extract of a PM chat that's now gone to the media, which it just shouldn't. And we've got to be really careful of what's said online, and more particularly at this particular time. So, look at those forums and don't get distracted by what somebody else might have said, because, with respect, they might not have the credibility or the knowledge or the understanding of everything else that we do have going on behind the scenes. I love the ideas, but as Damian said, we need to make sure that we're centred and putting forward the best and most suitable suggestions that's going to be applicable for the entire industry, not always just one particular area.
Yeah, I think my thoughts on that are, sorry, Mark, can you just click on that Q&A thing there? Oh, I've got it, okay. Facebook, for example, does not differentiate between smart people and dumb people. Like, it has no way, there is no artificial intelligence built into Facebook that will let you as a person know that this person knows what they're talking about and this person does not. So, like if I could say anything, always check back with the institutes, check back with credible news sources, check back with the lead agent /COVID-19, because we're trying to keep everyone sort of calm and focused and in the same direction. Guys, we'll wrap this up now, but what I want to wrap it up with is, one more question's come in. Is there a standard information pack available that property managers in New South Wales, we'll add Victoria and WA, can issue to landlords to outline the current process, statuses and guidelines that relate to residential lettings even?
There's information that's gone out to members every day, and I'm sure the other states are all exactly the same. So if that information doesn't contain what that person is looking for, just email me. Or direct message me, and I'm happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's kind of wrap this up with what is one thing that you would like people to remember right now at this time, or one thing that you want people to keep in mind as a result of listening to this chat? We'll start with Leanne.
I think that it's always times of the greatest challenge is when we find the greatest innovation. And so focus on that, focus on what's in front of you today, on what you can do, not on what you can't do. And we will get through this, and we will get through it together, and we'll get through it stronger. Yeah.
Leah?
I suppose everyone just to remember this is a short-term issue. It's not going to be forever. So, and that might be 3 weeks, it might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, but stay focused on what you're doing, but it is short term, so don't lose focus of that.
Yeah. And Damian?
Yeah, I agree. It is short term, but I think it's also an opportune time for us as an industry to really step up and be empathetic. Generally it's always the big bad landlord, and the real estate agents are generally way down there with used car salespeople and politicians in reputation. So the media's looking for this stuff. They're looking for angles where real estate agents, landlords are being mean. So show empathy, do the best we can. We obviously can't solve all the people's problems, but this is now a time for our industry and our leaders to stand up, and hopefully that people will get a better sense of what real estate, how important it is, and how important the people in the real estate industry are to the community in providing shelter.
Yeah, I think I mean that's really important to remember. Is this really is all about people. You know, at the end of the day, and people's homes are their sanctuaries, and you know, I think everyone, you know, you're all doing such important work right now, both, you know, out there in real estate businesses right now, because I think after this is over, people are going to view their homes as being more precious than ever, or their personal spaces as being more precious than ever. Okay, so I think that's it for the questions for the moment. If there are any other questions that you guys have or any other comments, we'll try and pick them up on the way through. We'll be posting the replay of this webinar later on this afternoon so that you can watch it back, or obviously you can watch it on Facebook. I'd like to thank my 3 guests today. Thank you. I know you guys are so busy and you're doing great work and hang in there from us. So Leanne Pilkington, thank you so much. Damian Collins, thank you so much. And Leah Calnan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks,
all right,
Sam.
guys. And we'll see you hopefully tomorrow for the Sheargold and Cunningham show.
Yeah, is that at the same time?
Same time, same bat time, same bat
Beautiful.
channel.
All right. See you then. Thank you.
All right, guys, hang in there.
See you later.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.